Welcome to the next episode of Hear the Lion Roar, the Primis Propositions vodcast. I'm Matt Brown, Head of Mortgage and Protection Proposition.
And I'm Nikki Hemmings, the General Insurance Proposition Manager here at Primis. And as Matt said, welcome to the next episode of Hear the Lion Roar.
We've got an absolutely storming guest today. So the chap who's about to join us on screen is an award winner earlier this week. And if you're watching later than earlier this week, so earlier in November, he won 3 awards at the Cover Awards for him and his company. They do an absolutely fantastic job in the protection world. We're delighted to learn a little bit more about their service. So welcome to Knowles from Cura. Hi, Alan.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
We're delighted to be joined. We're quite envious of those trophies you picked up earlier in the week.
I've got to be honest, they're still sat on my my mantelpiece at home at the moment. I've not even taken them into the office yet, but they will make their way there soon.
Nice one. Good stuff. So yeah, thanks for joining us, Alan. I think, you were previously an AR of our network for those people watching back who don't know that. So we obviously love you because you love Primis. But I guess, what we're really keen to learn from you first is a little bit about you. So don't talk to us about your company. Tell us about you. What's your background?
Okay, no problem. So I as you said, I was an AR of Personal Touch at the time, and I was an AR there for 11 years actually. So I was an appointed rep for quite a long time. I've been a protection advisor now for a total of 16 years. I originally actually joined the industry though as a website programmer, as an IT programmer. So I remember meeting my old boss, a chap called Mike, and he basically recruited me straight out of university and just said, I want to build a website, I want to generate inquiries and tell people what I do. It was a company called Top Quote UK. And that's what I came in and did. And I built these back office systems, I built these websites, and after sort of 6 to 12 months of doing that, I was hearing the advisors on the phone and thinking, actually, do you know what? This sounds pretty good, actually. And I don't know where I'm going to go in IT. And I guess nobody ever leaves school, do they, or university, and thinks I'm going to be a financial advisor or I'm going to be a protection advisor. But actually, once it grips you, it kind of really does get you. So, yeah, I took my qualifications. I went over to Knowles and sat my exams when the offices were over in Knowles rather than Birmingham. And became a protection advisor and never looked back. I did that for a number of years, and then I started managing the practice for Mike as he started to move further and further away from it. I started to train other advisors and sort of go from there. My wife Catherine then eventually joined the company as well, and she took over looking after compliance. And then eventually, Mike hit retirement. He basically said, I'm going to retire. That's kind of me done. Here's, the plan for me going forward. And we had 10 people in the office that were all employed at the time. So Catherine and I were left with that almost scary thing of what do we do? Do we go off and find something brand new? Do we something different? Or do we create our own company, take on the staff and go from there? And I'm pleased to say we did the latter. So it was 2012 and we created Cura and took everybody with us.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. What a story there. And I think I'm one of the few people that still remember those offices in Knowles as well, Alan. So I was there back many, many years ago now. We won't go on about how many years ago it was. So I mean, obviously, you've set up Cura and our experts team are getting some fantastic feedback around your team when it comes to placing business for clients who would struggle to potentially place business elsewhere, which is absolutely fantastic feedback that we get. So tell us who Cura are and a bit of, how they came about then, a bit of a backstory.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess I just touched on it a little bit there and said when we started. So we created in 2012, but there was a little bit more behind it. So Catherine is my wife. We've been married for, I need to get this one right because it's been recorded, so 16 years.
I'll check with her, Ellen. I'll check with her.
I'm just thinking that. We've got 3 children, and what happened as our sort of eldest was on the way, etc. We had applied for protection insurance for Catherine, and now we've done protection cover for me. I guess background on me is that I was at one point a lot bigger than what I am now. I was actually just over 20 stone. And when I went for my life insurance, apparently been sort of a young man in my 20s and been quite overweight at the time for my height, and having a dad who had a heart attack in his early 40s, I was hitting some pretty high premium increases. I'm also a bit of a tight Yorkshireman, so I went on a health kick afterwards, lost a lot of weight and redid it and got it at a cheaper premium. But that was my sort of incentive to do that. But Catherine's wasn't quite that simple. So Catherine's actually got a couple, and some people might know Catherine from the trade press, and she's a big mental health advocate. So she talks a lot in the press about mental health and about different conditions. But it actually stemmed from Catherine getting declined for her life insurance. Bear in mind, Catherine was in her 20s at the time for this, which is pretty young to get declined life insurance. And there were two reasons. So one is that she has suffered with mental health difficulties actually since we were due to get married, which is when she was first diagnosed with agoraphobia and a panic disorder. We were actually due to go get married in St. Lucia, and we had to cancel it because of the panic attacks, the fear of getting on a plane, and how that had sort of all evolved. But that was obviously quite a long time before this. Combined with the mental health difficulties, she's also got a condition called Hypermobility Syndrome. I won't bore everyone too much with the technicalities and details of this, but Hypermobility Syndrome is very closely linked to something called Ehlers-Danlos. And if anyone's ever tried to find life insurance for a client who's got Ehlers-Danlos or EDS, you'll find actually it's very, very difficult, because Ehlers-Danlos 1 and 2 can come with some serious complications. Number 3 is basically just hypermobility. So hypermobility means that the collagen is quite elasticated in your muscles. So I always use this example, and I can do this because I'm on video now. So I can, if you imagine my hands sort of praying in front of my head there, well, I can do that in front. Try and do that behind, no chance. I get nowhere near. Well, Catherine can do that. She can get her hands and actually do that behind, because everything's very elasticated more than it should be, but hardly a life-threatening condition. So the combination of these two conditions meant that Catherine couldn't get life insurance. So we were, almost thinking, we're starting a family. Catherine's, obviously going to be running a business, or she was running a business with me at the time, but she was doing the compliance and everything at Top Quote. And, it was a case of, well, what do we do? Do we just accept this? Do we say, well, we're not going to have the insurance for Catherine, we'll just cover me? Or are we going to challenge it? Are we going to fight it? Are we going to try and do something that we think we could do better? We chose the latter. We got a copy of her medical reports from her doctor. We went through it, all 200 pages of it. I remember it very well. Highlighter pen and biro, and we wrote all over it, and we put some context behind it. So we gave a story to the insurers. We said, well, she's done a doctorate, she's been off and done university, she's presented to and taught medical students, she's done this. We talked about the baby steps that which she'd taken to get down the road eventually, to get to the shops, to get to the next town, and how we'd sort of built her confidence back up. And long story short, 2 insurance companies came around and said, or basically turned back and said, do you know what, you're right, and we're sorry, and we will offer you terms. And it was almost, one, it was brilliant because we got Catherine cover. But the second one, it was a light bulb moment for us, because it was, wow, all our years of experience in the industry, and we'd struggled, and that was hard, but we'd been able to get that outcome. What could we do for other people? What could we do for people who maybe have cancer, heart attacks, people born with other conditions? So that was the light bulb moment. That was when we created Cura. Cura, by the way, is Latin for care and concern. That's where the name came from. We then coined the term insuring the uninsurable, which is basically what we wanted to do. We wanted to help people like Catherine to buy protection insurance. Sorry, that's quite a long explanation for the background on Cura, but that's where we came from, and we've never looked back, and we've been doing it and building on it and growing and challenging philosophies and decisions since then.
What a fantastic story to be able to tell, to how you form that business. That's amazing. Obviously, as well, you've touched on obviously your wife's story, your wife's background and everything, and we also know that from the feedback we're getting, you've touched on helping other people as well. Nothing does seem too extreme for Cura to cover. So having said that, touch on a bit more about what other clients you can help as well then.
I mean, I would say for us, we want to be able to try and do everything. We want to try and do anything. Yeah, I would say nothing is too extreme. We can usually put something on the table, so it's worth coming. Ultimately, not everyone's going to pay the price. If it's going to be a higher price, not everyone's going to take an exclusion. If it's going to be an exclusion, sometimes people will be pleasantly surprised actually at what we can find and what we can get cover for. I'd say it's, no matter what it is, it's always worth it's always worth trying. But I mean, the bulk of what we do is medical conditions. I'd say a good 75% is health conditions, and that could be, it's people with heart conditions. People, I mean, my best friend had a heart attack at 33 years old, fit, young, healthy footballer, and he had a heart attack at 33 years old. He's got 2 children. You put someone under the age of 40 or even 50 having a heart attack, and most insurers don't want to know anything about it. It is possible to get him covered. Yes, he is going to pay more because he's had that heart attack at a young age. For him, his cholesterol was high, something that ran in the family, had no idea about it. My argument is, now he knows about it and he's got it, he's medicated, he's monitored, he's treated for it, so the risk is now lower for him having another one. And that's something that we would use to hopefully help to fight his corner for it. It's not just, your heart attacks, your cancer. Obviously, with Catherine's background, we do a lot in the mental health side of things, and that can be, it can be alcohol, it can be drugs, it can be actual attempts where people have sadly tried to take their own life, or they've had self-harm, or they've got an ongoing condition which causes something like that. But it's also rare conditions. We've just done life insurance for someone who's got a condition that is very, very rare. Actually, it wasn't in any of the insurers' books. It was called amyloidosis of the bladder. And there are less than 200 documented cases worldwide. We're doing another case for someone with Holt-Oram syndrome at the moment, which again is another very rare condition. So again, I'd say anything, it's worth it's worth a call. And if it's something we've not come across, believe me, we will be all over it, because it interests us so much, because it's what we do. We also do a lot in travel, less so obviously over the last 12 months because of obviously everything we've all been through. But Iraq, back before obviously more recent events, we used to do quite a lot for people working in Afghanistan, Iran, Somalia. People who work outside the country for more than 6 months. So we've got people who work in Bahrain, for example, and again, different countries. Occupations, we've done cover for test pilots, for bell divers, armed forces, experimental air pilots, all sorts of things. So I think it's just saying it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a risk, if it's something that can't be done, or the price is just so ridiculously expensive, it's worth giving us a call.
Excellent.
Thanks, Alan. Proper inspired by your story of how you set up the business as a starting point. And I think just hearing that, we talk in Primis all the time about our brokers doing a proper job, helping the customers. Protection is such a massively important thing. And I think we really bang the drum about that message. I guess what would be good to hear from you is, we've worked with you guys for a pretty decent amount of time, really, whether that's when you were an AR of Primis or more recently running your own business. But I guess, have you had many leads from Primis brokers? And can you give me a couple of examples of ones where you have helped a client that sits under the Primis umbrella?
Yes, I could probably give a lot of examples, but I'll pull out a couple. I mean, I think the other thing is just to say that with some of the clients that we get referred as well, sometimes we do just have a conversation with the AR, and if we think that there's been something sort of wrong at the insurer, or it could be challenged, we don't just take it over and sort of do it from there. If it's something where we can just pass it back to them and say, actually, do you know what? Have a chat with this person or challenge it here, we will do that as well. But obviously sometimes it needs to be referred in and it does need to come to us. So a couple of examples. So we had a referral over from a Primis AR for a 47-year-old customer, did have an ongoing mental health condition, and very sadly she did try and take her own life on a number of occasions. So there was actually a total of 4 overdose attempts for this client, and the last one actually was within the last 2 years as well. All cries for help, all relating to things and tragic events, things that had happened within the family, and obviously the broker couldn't place it. I mean, anything usually more than 2 attempts is a problem, and certainly anything within the last 5 years is equally concerning for insurance companies. we have a couple of products where we can actually apply lifelong self-inflicted injury exclusions, so basically a lifelong suicide exclusion. And we were able to arrange this client cover, so £150,000 decreasing cover for a 47-year-old, 22 years was less than £20 a month for life insurance only. But as I say, it had that exclusion on it for the life of the policy rather than just the first 12 months. And the client was obviously absolutely over the moon. I think the thing is, most customers don't expect it to cover that anyway. And, you know, obviously the exclusion has got to be explained and detailed so that everybody's aware of it and the family. But that client's still covered for anything else. You know, if they were to get cancer, if they would have a heart attack, as long as it's anything other than that, then the policy would pay out for it. Interesting one next, we had a couple of clients in their 30s who were recreational drug users. Basically at the birthdays each year would like to go out and do, say, party drugs, I guess is the best way for me to say it. Obviously, most insurers do not like things that is anything more than, for example, a bit of cannabis, which this was. We were able to actually arrange level term life insurance for over 200,000 for £17 a month with no exclusions. And we were also able to get 2 short-term income protection policies that were fully underwritten as well. So 2-year claims, limits the insurance company's exposure, and they were £10 a month. So there wasn't, again, it wasn't a high premium. Now, obviously, I've given some examples there that are pretty low premiums. That's not the case all the time. Just on cover for someone who's a diabetic with some complicated liver complications, a complicated liver condition, 130,000 for this client is actually just over £300 a month. So it's a lot of money. Client is taking it because they are absolutely desperate for cover. You know, they really want it. They understand the value of protection. I understand not everyone's going to pay that kind of premium, but yeah, again, I think for me, it just comes down to, there is usually an option. There's usually something that can be put on the table. Not everyone's going to take it, but at least there's an option there that people can consider.
Thanks, Alan. You know, some pretty real life examples there. You know, whilst that first one was quite hard hitting, I think for that client and that family to have that peace of mind that there's some cover in place is, you know, absolutely bang on, and well done to the broker who referred that to you and didn't just chuck it in the bin and say, sorry, Mr. Customer, we can't help you. So really good example.
Do you know, when we get somebody like that as well, they are, you know, because they think they're uninsurable, because they think they could never get anything, they are so grateful to everyone involved, not just to us, but for the person who referred. I mean, we have clients send us cards, you know, for arranging life insurance. They send us handwritten cards thanking us, you know, for getting them something and protecting the family that they never thought they could get. So it's, you know, regardless of any money that's involved in it, in doing it and setting it up, it's so worthwhile. And it's such a lovely feeling to be able to do that for people.
Yeah, well done. Proper respect, Alan. Well done. I guess my sort of next question is, you sit on a number of industry bodies, so, you know, I'm sure you'll tell us what the names of them are, but you sit on a number of industry bodies. You're not just the MD of Cura. I guess from the conversations you have with, you know, within those circles, have you got any golden nuggets of information you can share with people watching this video back? You know, things that are regularly discussed there that might help our advisors talk about protection, talk about a referral service?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as if I wasn't busy enough with Cura and the 3 kids and the puppy, then I also chair a group called the PDG, Protection Distributors Group, which is a group of basically some large and some small influential protection focused brokers in the UK. I sit on the steering group for the Access to Insurance Working Party and the Income Protection Task Force as well. So one of the things I would just point out for the PDG, and this is well worth everybody having a look at and asking insurance companies about, or having a look at the website, which is Protection Distributors Group, is the claims charter and the funeral pledge. So you may have seen these badges on some of the insurance companies' literature. So the majority of insurers now signed up to these campaigns. And the idea was behind the claims charter and the funeral pledge was to make claims more efficient mainly for clients, but obviously for intermediaries as well. And it's relatively simple things. So what would seem simple to us, like contacting a client regularly, responding to a query on a claim within 24 hours to the client. But really importantly, notifying the broker if there's ever a claim as well. If anyone's ever had it where you've rang a client for your regular review and you found out there's a claim, but you've not been told about it, it's a really hard conversation then to have. So we ask insurers to commit to a number of points, and it is worthwhile just having a look at those, because there's some very key points on there that do make the claims more efficient for those insurers that have signed up. But the other big area where it's had a lot of focus, and what we're doing here actually is a perfect example of it, is signposting. So signposting's definitely become embedded within the financial services culture a lot more over the last few years, and we all keep talking about it. Now, signposting for Cura, for what we're doing, is if you can't find cover for a client because of a health condition and risk, etc., then you refer it into us, you signpost it to us. Obviously, we pay some commission, we do a split on that, but ultimately the main point of it is that the client gets protection when otherwise there should have been none. But the concept of signposting is bigger than that. So signposting has existed as long as we've been doing this, but it exists in other markets as well, such as the legal profession, where solicitors, do this. You don't tend to find a solicitor who does conveyancing, who then does the wills and then does the HR support, etc. So within our industry, for example, if you are a mortgage broker and you do the protection, brilliant, absolutely fantastic. But if you don't write protection or you don't have time for it, well, internally within the network, within Primus, you can refer onto other ARs, you can set up agreements, you can signpost to them. And for me, that is the right thing to do. It's the professional thing to do. We do it at Cura for private medical insurance. We do it at Cura for travel insurance, for customers with health conditions, or for anyone looking for travel, for general insurance, for mortgages, for investments, etc. So for me, it's about being able to, if you can point your clients in the right direction, one, if you can get a financial reward for that, then that's brilliant, that helps. But ultimately, it's the right thing to do, and it looks good on everybody. It especially looks good on you for actually doing that as well.
Brilliant, Alan. Thanks. Really, really useful stuff there. And I couldn't agree more with the signposting piece. And I think, from our point of view, we want brokers doing a proper job. We want them talking about protection. We want them to utilize the panel. But then where the panel says, no, we can't cover that client, that's absolutely why we've got Cura on the panel. So there's a second option there. So that signposting, I couldn't agree more, is really, really important.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've learned a lot about who Cura are, how you can actually help the clients. Let's not finish this webinar with telling our brokers how they can actually refer business over to you.
Give us a call or drop us an email. We don't do online forms or anything like that. They're too robotic, it just doesn't capture the information. I would say give us a quick call, we'll have a chat about it, probably 5 minutes. You don't need to give us anything identifiable about the client, and in fact I would ask that you don't initially, because obviously we would need customer consent to have that. But ask us a bit about the condition, tell us what you've got, and we will do our best to try and tell you what we think it's going to cost.
Couldn't agree more, Alan. That's the end goal, isn't it? If we can't cover it with the standard providers on the panel, that's absolutely why you're there. So I'd encourage people to get in touch, like you said, after they've gone to the panel. If that's a no, use Cura, use the award-winning Alan and Catherine Knowles.
You made me go red again like I did the other night when you announced it.
Absolutely, mate. No. So listen, I think loads of really useful information there for everybody watching back. I certainly know more about Cura now than I did before. And I think, your ethics of your business and just that story of how you and Catherine set up the business is enough for me to like the business and buy into the business. So thanks for sharing some really personal stuff there. Much appreciated. And thanks for joining Hear the Lion Roar.